Hello. I want to go over my big 3 items plus my sleeping pad. So my big 4 or 5. Don't judge. I also want to do some updates about how I'm feeling with my training and about the trail, because I know everyone's dying to hear it. So for my big 3, if you aren't a cool backpacker like me and you don't know what that means, join the club. From my understanding, it is the biggest and heaviest items that a backpacker carries, which are your backpack, shocker, your sleeping bag, and your tent. And the bonus number 4 is your sleeping pad. So I will go over my backpack first, because that has given me the most grief and taken the most of my money. So when I first started shopping for my PCT gear, I was like, money's no issue, and I also don't care about comfort, so I'm just gonna buy the most ultralight items. I don't know who I thought I was or who I was trying to fool. I know from past experiences that I am not the best with extreme discomfort. And after a few shakedown hikes with the gear that I thought I wanted, my feelings started to change about ultralight gear just a little bit. So clearly the lesson learned here is when buying gear, consider your comfort level as well. And of course, a certain amount of discomfort is just a given while on a thru hike. But there are some things that I'm not willing to part with just yet. So I started with this bag. It is the Hyperlite Mountain Gear 2400 Southwest. It is a 40-liter bag. It's frameless. It's waterproof material, and it's very light. Sounds awesome, right? Well, unless you are willing to part with quite a few comfort items and buy all of your gear ultralight, at least in my experience, when this bag was packed with all of my gear, it did not sit right on my body. And that's probably because I did not buy all of my gear ultralight. And also, like I said, I have some items I don't want to part with. So when this pack was full of all of my non-ultralight gear and food and water, it was around 30 pounds. And the Hyperlite website says that it can carry up to 40 pounds, but I don't know if it's because the bag is frameless, or I have heard that the stitching by the shoulder straps is one of the weak points of the Hyperlite bags, because it seemed to cause a lot of stress on the bag no matter how I picked it up. I picked it up with both straps, with one especially. It just seemed like it was under a lot of stress, and it felt so heavy. For comparison, when we did the 22-mile hike in San Francisco, I was using my Osprey travel bag, and that's a heavier framed bag, and it was loaded to about 30 pounds, and it felt like nothing on my back. There was no weird pulling or uncomfortable spots. It just felt like it sat really well on my body. But a few weeks ago, we went to San Francisco again, and I used my Hyperlite bag, and it was loaded to about 30 pounds, and it did not feel good. And we only did about 12 miles, but I was having some pretty serious issues with the bag. It was pulling on my right shoulder so hard that the right side of my body started to go numb. I had no feeling in my fingertips and my right cheek, and my ear, like the inside of my ear was like tingling, and my neck and shoulder right here was just like extremely sore. So I got pretty discouraged after that trip with this Hyperlite bag. And I made an impulse buy on what was voted, or what was, I think, the most popular bag on the PCT for the last 3 years, according to the Halfway Anywhere blog. And that is, okay, I'm changing the direction so that maybe you can see the bags easier. This is the ULA Equipment Circuit. It is a 68-liter bag, so quite a bit more than the Hyperlite. It has a 35-pound weight capacity, while the Hyperlite has a 40-pound, which I find hard to believe. And it is internally framed, so it has some structure to the back of it, while the Hyperlite is a frameless bag. It is also 7.3 ounces heavier than the Hyperlite bag. I have not done as many long hikes with this bag, but so far there are a couple of things that I like more about it. The first thing that I like is how this bag feels when I have loaded it with all of my gear. There's no weird pulling on my shoulder. There's no hurtful spots on my back. The Hyperlite tends to chafe on my lower back, and it just feels very light and smooth. It's kind of hard to explain. It really just feels like I'm carrying nothing even when the bag is fully loaded. The second thing that I like better about this bag is this huge stretchy pocket on the front, and also these side pockets. It has side pockets on both sides, and you can adjust how big you want these pockets. Well, it does adjust, but for some reason it's not working. The Hyperlite does also have a pocket on the outside, but it is not nearly as stretchy. It does stretch, but the pocket itself, I don't know if you can see that. I don't know if you can see, but it's not very wide. So if you can get items down there, it just doesn't hold nearly as much. Also, the side pockets are like way smaller than the Circuit. I would put like a water bottle in there, and that's like all it could fit. In the Circuit, I can put a water bottle and multiple other items. I'm gonna try to show a better look at these pockets. So it's just very, not very wide. It's pretty deep, but there's just, for some reason, it doesn't hold a lot. Usually all I could get in there was like my water bladder and my poop kit, which is not very much. And this I can fit so much because it just stretches a lot. And then these side pockets are just really spacious. While this one, even if you do get a water bottle in there, when you go to reach behind you to pick it out, it doesn't pull out very well. I felt like I was fighting the bag to get it out. The other thing I like about the Hyperlite Circuit is this cording. I don't really like a lot of things hanging on the outside of my bag, but there is one thing that I'm not willing to part with, and that brings me to my sleeping pads. Okay, I'm having like a lot of trouble figuring out the best angle in this room. This is my snake and tarantula room. It's also my workout and gear room, but I don't know, I'm having a hard time. So this is where I might be a little controversial. I, at the moment, am planning on bringing 2 sleeping pads. Yes, the ultralight community definitely just shunned me. But the first pad that I'm bringing is the Nemo Switchback. It is a closed cell phone pad. It is in short, and it weighs 10.5 ounces. And I will also be bringing the Thermarest Neo X Airlight. That pad is in regular, and I think it weighs 13.5 ounces. But the reason that I am kind of set on bringing 2, from all the hikes that I've done, admittedly very few overnight hikes, I have come to find that I am the type of person that really enjoys laying down and stretching out on my breaks. I really like to take off my shoes and massage my feet on the like bumps on this pad. I also really enjoy like laying down completely on my breaks. I would really prefer to not do this on the dirt, and obviously I cannot do that on the Thermarest pad because it's a blow up pad and it would probably pop. I've also seen people use this as like a makeshift umbrella during the rain or when it's really hot. Also, it can provide shade when it's hot. and I just think that it's very useful and has kind of a multi-purpose to it, and it's relatively light. The only thing is, I cannot sleep on this thing. Not only am I a very cold sleeper, and I think the Nemo pad has an R value of 2. R value is basically a warmth rating, 1 being very cold and like 5.5 being like the warmest that you can get for insulation. And the Thermarest I think has a 4.5 R rating. So I'm really cold when I have used this, and also I like to sleep on my stomach, like on my face. So obviously I have to bring the Thermarest as well. And I've actually gotten really good sleep on it, even though I think the main complaint with it is that it makes like this crunchy sound when you move on it. But it is really warm and very comfortable. I also really plan on doing a lot of cowboy camping, which is where you sleep without a tent. And I think it would be nice to have like an extra layer of protection underneath the blow-up Thermarest pad. So I would put this underneath that pad, and I would probably also use my tent footprint. And I have made sacrifices in other areas to accommodate for this. At the moment, my base weight is 17 pounds, which I'm pretty happy with. I don't consider myself an ultralight hiker, obviously, and I really have little desire to be one. As long as my base weight's under 20 pounds, I'm happy. I almost didn't make this video because I was like, why would I make a video about my big 3 when I could just do that in the whole gear video that I'm gonna do before I go? I was like, I'm gonna have nothing to talk about. Apparently I'm quite long-winded today. So another item that is in the big 3 is a sleeping bag, or my upgrade to a quilt. And this is the item that I'm probably the most excited about. On the few backpacking trips that I have done, I have always used this Marmot 20-degree sleeping bag. It's not a mummy bag, but it is a sleeping bag. It weighs 3.5 pounds, and it's not super warm, it's not super fluffy. One thing I really love though about this sleeping bag is that it has like a strong chemical smell, which my brain now associates with camping. Also, the first time I used it, the temperature got down to 14 degrees, and while I was definitely not comfortable and didn't sleep very much, it saved my life, basically, so I owe this sleeping bag my life. It is quite heavy and it does not compress down. So that's my main issues with that bag. Also, I would like something a little bit warmer because I am a very cold sleeper. So when I first heard of backpacking quilts, I was like, that's weird, no thank you. But of course, I did some research and I just decided to take the plunge, and I did go with the Enlightened Equipment Enigma. It is rated for 10 degrees. It is a down fill at 850. It weighs 22.5 ounces, so around 1.4 pounds, which is quite a big weight difference between my Marmot bag. And the way this sleeping bag feels, you probably can't tell on camera, but it's so much fluffier than the Marmot bag, and it compresses down to like nothing. Like, this thing gets so small in my bag, which I really like, and it just feels like a very warm cloud. I did have it in my compression bag, so it's a little deflated right now, but when it's out, has been out for a while, it just fluffs up. I will say I have not taken it camping yet, but I have tried to sleep in it a few times just at home, and I have to say I really like it. The main difference between a quilt and a sleeping bag is that the quilt's back is open, so it doesn't have any zippers. Like a sleeping bag zips up and you're like confined into like a mummy bag. The quilt is open. It does have these straps that you can put around your sleeping pad and like pull them tight so that there's no drafts. The main thing that I really like about this is that I tend to move around and toss and turn in my sleep, and because you're not zipped up into a bag, you're kind of free to do that. In like a sleeping bag, I would get really tangled inside of the bag because you're like zipped up inside the sleeping bag and the bag moves with you and you get tangled. This does not move with you. It does have a sewn foot box, so my feet are the only thing that are like cocooned inside the bag. But I haven't had any problems with it when I tested it out. I was able to move around freely, which is something that I really like. Did not get a draft collar for this bag. It's like this ugly collar that they put at the top, and I guess it keeps out drafts, but I'm not sure if I will regret that. I also got a sleeping bag liner. I don't know where it's at, but it's the Sea to Summit sleeping bag liner. So if I do need that in the Sierra, I will ship it to myself. But I think I'll be warm enough with the 10-degree bag. I guess the desert will tell. And last but certainly not least is my shelter, otherwise known as a tent. So this was a tough one for me because I wanted to be cool and get the Z-Packs duplex that like everyone seems to have. It literally weighs like barely more than a pound, but I have some issues with the Z-Packs duplex. And full disclosure, I have actually never used this tent. It's just issues that I feel like I would not like. And this is where like being ultra light versus what you're comfortable with and what you like and weighing that difference out. It does seem that there are very strong opinions about the Z-Packs duplex, and some people either love it or they absolutely hate it, which, to be fair, I think that's very common with any piece of really popular gear. But the issues that I have with the duplex are, first, it is a $700 tent. And for what it is, that just seems like a bit much to me. There are tents in the same weight range for literally less than half that price. For example, the Gossamer Gears, the one, I think it's a $300 or $350 tent. And I think it even weighs less than the Z-Packs duplex. I'm not sure though. I have also heard of a lot of people having really bad issues with the zipper on the Z-Packs duplex. If I paid $700 for a tent, I would be just a little bit extra annoyed at a zipper issue. Because I think zipper issues are pretty common for backpacking tents, but at $700, it's like, I would expect some very high quality zippers. But honestly, my main issue with this tent and the reason I decided to go for something else was because one of my favorite things in the world is camping without a rainfly and being able to see the stars. And the duplex does not have a removable rainfly, which is awesome for weight savings, but not so great for what I'm trying to get out of this experience. And I'm probably romanticizing the no rainfly option a little bit. I imagine at the end of the day I'll want some privacy if I do have a trampoline. I do love the simplicity of the duplex. Being able to utilize your trekking poles for more than one reason is really cool because the duplex does not use tent poles. It also does not require a footprint. So obviously all of those are major advantages because of weight savings and more room in your pack. But my last issue with this tent, and probably, well, definitely the one that matters the least, is just that it's not very aesthetically pleasing. It looks like a wrinkly old tarp that someone just pulled out of their garage. I think maybe it's the blue coloring specifically that makes me feel this way, because I swear to God, my dad had like a nasty old tarp with holes in it in this exact same color. I guess the white color kind of has Hyperlite minimalistic vibes, but yeah, I just don't really like the way it looks. So I ultimately ended up with the Big Agnes Fly Creek. This is the long one. Big Agnes Fly Creek HV UL2 solution dyed tent. So the tent is in this compression sack right now. I don't think I want to bring it out, but this is the rainfly and the tent body and the footprint in here. And it even compresses smaller than this. I just opened it because I thought I was gonna take it out, but I'm about to go hiking, so I don't want to. So this is a semi-freestanding tent, which means that it will stand when it has the poles in it, but to be completely set up, it has to be staked down. And I think technically it is a bike packing tent. Not really sure what makes it a bike packing tent, but the total packed weight with everything, including the tent poles and the stakes, is just a little over 2 pounds. I have set this up a few times and I actually really like this tent. It's super roomy. It's technically a 2-person tent, so for 1 person it feels like a palace. It's very easy to set up, and I think it looks really cute set up, and it looks great without the rainfly. The mesh body of the tent is very fine and it's very easy to see out of it, so great for stargazing. The biggest suck about this tent is obviously just the tent poles. They're just really long. They don't weigh anything, or they weigh almost nothing, but they're just annoying to put in your bag. But I think that is more my style. So that is my big 5. And obviously I am open to all of this changing, especially the 2 sleeping pad things. I'm gonna start the trail with both of them, and if I just find it to be more annoying than it's worth, then I'll just send one home. Easy as that. I know that gear and the way you think about it and the way you use your gear definitely evolves with experience. So I'm just planning on being very open to it all. I am just really excited for the trail. I'm also planning a 50-mile shakedown hike in the next couple of weeks, which I will be filming, but I will definitely have an even better understanding of what I like about my gear and what I don't like. And then probably right before I go, I will do like a final gear video on everything that I'm bringing. And speaking of shakedown hikes, let's talk about that for a second and my training. I have felt really overwhelmed lately with my job and how much I'm training for my marathon and hiking, which is why I have skipped a few weeks posting on YouTube. I just really needed a break. And I was really struggling to find like a happy balance between all of this and how busy I am. Also, the weather has just been an absolute drag in California, as I'm sure anyone who's hiking the PCT this year knows. And I have also found that I experienced some very negative symptoms when I train really hard, which I'm very happy that I'm figuring out how to deal with those now, because I have found some solutions, and if I didn't find those, I would have definitely had some very miserable days on trail. And I will talk about those more, and how I combat those symptoms in another video, which I'm gonna do about food and nutrition and my resupply strategy. My camera is having some issues, but I just wanna say thank you so much for watching, and please subscribe if you're not subscribed. It really helps me keep whatever little motivation I have for this channel. And yeah, thank you for watching.